I've been reaching out to the Army all week to try to get information as to why Jonathan Lee, someone already facing serious charges, was not in custody. Today, I got answers. It was Annie working that night, that entire situation caught on surveillance camera. She tells me it was shocking, it was terrifying, but she also feels appreciative after facing a gun pointed right at her. Now investigators are on the hunt for those two remaining suspects. This is the third time a child has been involved in a shooting in the city of Tacoma in July. Two other incidents that got a lot of attention earlier this month. A 14-year-old child shot and killed in the city. I also spoke to another family just this week. Their 10-year-old inside their home was shot when several bullets flew through the home while they were inside. A lot of people are asking when this violence will end in this city. Now look, I want to show you guys, as I have a little bit more of a chance. Mike, you're fine where you are, because I'm gonna. So here is that unit that was coming down the street. You hear the sirens and you can see them coming. Now I want to show you right here on Pike. You saw it yourselves. Hundreds of people now gone, but still that car still on fire. The smoke, the black clouds of smoke billowing up into the sky, but there are people who are taking selfies in front of it, taking pictures in front of it. The continued sound of the smashed windshields as these people have now made their way into this King County vehicle that has a lights on top of it. Here's someone that's driving down the street in front of what was those members of law enforcement. These are people driving down the street. There are people on skateboards. This is, the only word for it is chaos. And it's really coming down. You always see people talking about just how high the snow is, you know, this much or this much, but you know, let me just show you how much snow is here. For these fans, it's an amazing way to start off the new year, but the same goes for businesses as they're getting a big economic impact.
And if you guys are still looking for the party here at the press box, well, that game's about to start in just a few minutes, so it's cleanup time here. Most of the people that were here are going to go watch the actual game, but we're going to be here. We're going to be talking about it throughout the rest of the day, and we're hoping everybody enjoys the rest of their Thanksgiving. I'm going to help these guys clean up. They've been working hard out here. Guys, I'll send it back to you.
Just listen to this energy as Jonathan is getting everybody ramped up. I'm here with him. I'm ready for this game to start. We're going to be out here throughout the entire night. What do you think about tonight?
It's incredible. Whatever happens, happens tonight. But the fans are showing up and showing out, just like Marshawn said.
Yeah. Well, we'll be here throughout the night reporting live in Queen Anne Beer Hall. I'm AJ Janavel for Fox 13 News. Oh my gosh, it's hot in there.
I spoke to law enforcement. They gave me some tips on how you can make sure that your packages stay yours this holiday season. So a lot of people get notifications sent right to their phone when their package arrives. Law enforcement suggests making sure you're home when that happens, or getting to know your neighbors and having them keep an eye out for your stuff when it arrives. With cameras all around the store, there is a lot of video capturing the suspect holding up Lakina. When you leave the precinct, you're going to get yourself the lock and the key. Installation is simple. You just extend the lock, and then the law enforcement says these locks are only a deterrent to thieves, especially experienced ones, and they suggest that you get extra men. Brandon says on the surface, things seemed on the up and up. The person was able to answer all of his questions and his concerns. But Brandon says when he looked a little bit closer, things were not what they seemed. What we're talking about, it's a hose bib, and this is what you see outside of your house, but what you don't see is the pipe that is in the house. And what happens is when you have the hose bib turned off. I've been reaching out to the Army all week to try to get information as to why Jonathan Lee, someone already facing serious charges, was not in custody. Today, I got answers.
But now my whole life is just about anger. I am furious. I am so angry, and someone is to blame for this. Somebody dropped the ball on this.
It's now been more than 2 weeks since the love of Nicole Charcote's life was murdered, killed while working, driving his cab. A law enforcement source tells us Jonathan Lee is a person of interest in the case.
He probably put him at ease because he might have been in soldier uniform. Probably thought he was just going back to JBLM. He had no idea that this guy was even out there, that he was dangerous. None of us did.
But somebody did. I got my hands on charging documents for Lee. He was booked into Pierce County Jail back in April of 2022, accused of raping a 6-year-old girl and a 7-year-old girl. But a few months later, the case was handed over to the military.
Here's a man who had nothing to lose. I saw the charges he was being faced with. I saw the circumstances, and nothing was done to prevent him from leaving that place.
There's no bail system in the military. Instead, if you want to confine a defendant before trial, they must be a flight risk or will create future serious misconduct.
I want to know who his commanding officer was. I want to know step by step. What was their thought process? How did they reach this conclusion that he got one more day? He got time to pack his things.
Officials with the Army tell me Lee had no history of other crimes. He lived on base and reported for duty daily. Lee deserted just a few days before his hearing.
I have no faith in any of their systems. I have no faith in them. I don't have faith in anything anymore.
Tukwila Police Department is the leading investigating agency in this murder case. I've been reaching out to them all week after Fox 13 News learned that that person of interest is Jonathan Lee, which Tukwila Police has yet to confirm. They tell me they will not release any more information this week due to the respect of the family. Reporting here in Pierce County, I'm AJ Janavel, Fox 13 News. Alaska Airlines says they've grounded about 60 of their 737 MAX 9s. United says they've also grounded their fleet. United, the only other airline that uses this model of plane, also says they found an unspecified amount of planes with loose door bolts, which leads to the big question, how often are passengers flying in dangerous situations?
On Monday, the National Transportation Safety Board said they found the door that flew off Alaska Airlines Flight 1282.
We are emergency. We are depressurized.
Video Fox 13 News obtained from inside the Boeing 737 MAX 9 showed the terror in flight as the aircraft flew with the missing plug. Since this shocking event, passengers have faced nightmares at airports across the country.
First, they canceled our flight. We didn't know when or where we were going to go. Then they were taking us to Portland and then Burbank today. And then they changed that, canceled that.
On Monday alone, Alaska Airlines canceled at least 140 flights, and United Airlines canceled about 200 flights. With the planes grounded, airlines are forced to scramble, and there's no timeline for when this will be resolved.
Do not rush this. We want those airplanes flying. We will not fly an unsafe airplane. As captain, that's my moral and professional obligation, but do not rush your review.
Dennis Tager is a pilot for American Airlines. He flies Boeing 737s. He also is the spokesperson for the Allied Pilots Association, the union for American Airlines pilots. While the investigation for the actual cause of Friday's incident is still ongoing, Tager tells me he's losing faith in Boeing.
We had the 737 MAX a couple of years ago. 2 of them went down, 346 lives lost. We see Boeing in the news consistently.
Tager recently spoke out on Boeing's request for safety exemptions for their current 737 models that have de-icer issues, which can cause a loss of plane control. Boeing provided me with a statement regarding Friday's in-flight incident that reads in part, "We agree with and fully support the FAA's decision to require immediate inspections of 737-9 MAX airplanes with the same configuration as the affected airplane."
Officials with Boeing tell me they're having a company-wide safety meeting at their Renton facility on Tuesday. You can count on continued coverage as well. To see Boeing's full statement, as well as statements from Alaska Air and United, go to fox13seattle.com. Reporting here at the airport, I'm AJ Janavel for Fox 13 News. Matt, police tell us that suspect is a man and got away in a white car, but that's all they have said. Now, we're outside the Costco. It's shut down right now, but earlier in the day, I was talking to customers who were walking inside, had no idea they were heading toward a crime scene.
There's a shooting. Can we go in?
Oh, it's terrible.
I mean, this happens all the time.
Friday morning, police tape surrounds the body of a woman murdered in the Costco parking lot in Tukwila. Investigators say she was shot. Officers tried to save her life, but
Tragically, she died feet away from the store. For hours, the business remained open.
I don't even know what to think. It's kind of scary.
I think it's very scary.
Yeah, I don't think I'll be going in today.
Katie Hoff planned to grab groceries at the Costco until I told her what happened.
It's upsetting, and I guess I don't feel very safe right now.
Doors closed, you guys!
Around 1 in the afternoon, Costco shut its doors to customers. I spoke to some people who told me they were inside the business when the shooting happened.
I just kind of wanted to get out.
This has to stop.
There are surveillance cameras throughout the Costco parking lot. I asked an officer on scene if the cameras captured video of the suspect and if police plan to release the footage for the public safety. They told me the investigation is still ongoing and they're not sure what the cameras captured. Hannah, Matt, this is the second shooting in Tukwila in just a little bit more than 12 hours. This is also the second time there's been a murder in a Tukwila parking lot in about 2 weeks. Now, as far as this case, there's not a lot that has been released in regards to the suspect or the victim. Police are asking anyone with information to contact them. Reporting live in Tukwila, I'm AJ Janavel, Fox 13 News. The blizzard conditions here at Snoqualmie Pass continue into the night. The wind, the snow. Earlier in the day, there were road closures. I've spoken to some people here who tell me they're stuck.
It was even deeper.
Amar Amir's car did not look like this when he parked it here Monday night.
If we missed this exit and kept going, we would have been stranded on the freeway.
Amar and his girlfriend, Abby, are trying to drive east to head back to school.
I knew there was a blizzard coming, but I was like, man, I can beat it, you know?
You need heavier manpower to beat this blizzard.
There was 19 inches of snow that drove the decision this morning.
Around 8:30 in the morning, WashDOT shut down eastbound I-90 for avalanche control. The program has been around for decades, and while they don't use the tank anymore, crews still do a bang-up job keeping the mountain road safe.
They are watching it 24/7 just to assess, and that's why they do these avalanche controls, so they can actually prevent something that could be more catastrophic.
Due to the closure, traffic backed up on the interstate, which led to some drivers needing to refuel.
Do you want me to pay now or later?
But power outages at Snoqualmie Pass made that a challenge.
Sometimes we get it only a couple hours, sometimes 3 days, you know.
Polo Ortiz tells me, when you've worked here for 3 decades, you know what to expect. And that includes how to stock your shelves.
Some people want to change, they try to go make it home, you know. Some people buy alcohol because they like enjoying the mountain.
If you are driving, make sure that you have the right tires or you have chains. If not, it's dangerous and it could cost you hundreds of dollars. Reporting here at Snoqualmie Pass, I'm AJ Janavel, Fox 13 News.
Okay, I'm gonna need you to use your imagination because right now, this doesn't look like a party. It's cold, it's wet, it's a little lonely, honestly. But earlier, this was the place to be. Hundreds of fans cheering on the Dogs as they make their way to Houston. For some fans, it's gonna be a pretty busy weekend. A proper send-off. The UW football team surrounded by die-hard fans as they make their way to the airport. And they weren't the only ones.
I don't have much of a voice still from New Orleans, recovering from that one. Oh, yeah.
Abby and Charlie Stanton are longtime Huskies.
We met in college at UW. Actually, our first date was after a Husky game.
They planned well ahead of the big game.
We've had these flights for over a month as well.
But not everyone prepared for this weekend.
The flight, they're just really hard to get, so I just said I'm going to bite the bullet and go because I love my dog, so I'm going to pay her the price to go see him.
Was it hundreds? Was it more than 100?
It was like 1,500.
Paul Sweeney tells me, regardless of the price, it's worth it.
Actually, my first year going to games was, I hope, lucky because it was the last time that we won the national championship in 1991. I've been going to the games with my dad ever since.
For some fans, they technically didn't even have to buy tickets to Houston for the game.
We got these tickets way before UW even got in the semifinal.
Andy Dong is from Seattle but lives in Houston. Home for the holidays, his flight back to Texas works perfectly for the championship.
Yep, I'm going to the game.
Are you sure?
I'm fairly certain. I'm very, very blessed. I have a friend who wants to buy my ticket for me.
Some people get all the luck.
So if you feel so inspired, there's actually some tickets still available if you have $800, $900, or even $1,200 laying around. Also, flights are only going for a few $100s for Friday and Saturday. Delta and Alaska both added extra flights when they heard the Dogs were going to the national championship. So if you can, I think Houston's probably the place to be this weekend. Reporting in. The judge in Grace and Sam Wilkinson's case ruled that DCYF deliberately refused to see Sam for who he is, a loving father and husband.
Sam Wilkinson will always remember how he felt when he saw Sequoia for the first time after growing up adopted, never knowing his birth parents.
That was such a surreal moment for me because it was the very first moment that I laid eyes on my own blood.
And Sam can't forget that day, 7 months later, when a doctor took her from him and how he felt then.
I'm a person that believes that through most circumstances, life goes on. But the thought of not having my daughter doesn't really feel like life would go on.
Sam and his wife, Grace, lost custody of their daughter by being good parents. February 25th, they rushed Sequoia to an urgent care. When they saw she was holding her arm funny, they ordered an x-ray. It showed Sequoia actually had a fracture, and the family should go immediately to Seattle Children's Hospital because she needed surgery. But at Children's, everything changed.
We felt like criminals from the get-go. Just because of the nature of a 7-month-old having a fracture, it's not common. You could just tell that the whole dynamic changed.
The injury, because it was uncommon, was treated as evidence. One or both parents were responsible. It was a medical certainty.
That's really what it is that it was a diagnosis of child abuse, not just an accusation. They diagnosed our daughter with child abuse. I didn't know what the SCAN team was until we got an attorney.
SCAN stands for Safe Child and Adolescent Network. It's a team of pediatricians under contract with Washington's Department of Children, Youth, and Families who have special training to decide whether a child's injury is from abuse or neglect. The SCAN pediatrician handling Sequoia's case was Dr. Elena Feldman. And in her expert opinion, the x-rays showed at least 3 more broken bones besides Sequoia's elbow.
The doctor on the SCAN team, Elena Feldman, stated that these injuries were better understood as like child abuse injuries.
The situation felt hopeless, but Sam and Grace weren't helpless.
When we heard Elena Feldman, the name for the doctor, they decided they wanted to look her up.
It was there that we found your story on Casey.
Ready, set.
In February, we brought you the story of Casey Sigmund and her baby boy Kane. Like the Wilkinsons, Casey had brought her son to Seattle Children's Hospital. And like the Wilkinsons, she was blindsided by the SCAN team's determination that Kane had a sure sign of abuse. Even the doctor who made the diagnosis was the same, Dr. Elena Feldman. The judge ruled Dr. Feldman had made a mistake. There were no signs of abuse or neglect, and Casey and Kane were reunited. Buoyed by Casey's story, Sam and Grace reached out to her for any advice she could give to turn their situation around.
And the next day, my mom got a message back, and Casey's like, you guys need to hire a lawyer.
Attorney Elena Treball was fresh from winning a child custody battle against DCYF when Sam and Grace hired her. Treball's first move was clear.
I wanted to ensure that we had a second opinion, time to figure out what exactly happened to Sequoia.
If DCYF had SCAN, the Wilkinsons had Dr. Naran Alajba.
You have a child abuse team, so you need a child abuse defense team.
Dr. Alajba is a practicing pediatrician with more than 2 decades of experience. She's also an instructor on staff at Seattle Children's Hospital, and for the past several years, she's been brought in to consult on alleged child abuse cases. After reviewing Sequoia's case, 3 things became clear. 1, neither Sam nor Grace hurt Sequoia.
2 weeks after the original person says there's a break, there should be a bright white thing happening here.
I don't see anything.
No, of course not. Here, same thing. Do you see anything? No, it all looks good.
We shared what we had found, which was that we believe Sequoia has marks of poor bone formation, which is a relatively common condition for newborn babies.
2, Dr. Feldman's diagnosis was done sight unseen.
We've learned not only through testimony, but also through, the scan team's own records, that they do not believe it is medically necessary to personally examine the patient prior to making their diagnoses.
And 3, the social workers back at the hospital had already decided who was to blame.
They asked me how Sam was in the house and his behavior and how he treated Sequoia and I. And so I could connect the dots of like, okay, now they're trying to pin this on Sam.
Misread x-rays, misjudged character that led to a mistaken diagnosis of abuse. But would the court agree? At the Wilkinson's custody hearing, Judge Nicole Gaines Phelps reached the same conclusion. And she found the scan team made its decisions based on conscious and unconscious bias towards people that come from minority communities, particularly Black and brown communities.
They had no problem diagnosing child abuse, but then when it came time to explain why they made that diagnosis, they couldn't show up.
For a judge to use their position to call out and just name that it was racial bias. I was sitting next to him and we both just took a deep breath in that moment and just cried.
I reached out to officials from both Seattle Children's Hospital and DCYF for on-camera interviews regarding this story. An official from DCYF told me they cannot comment on cases. Seattle Children's did not answer my request for an interview. Reporting in the studio, AJ Janavel, Fox 13 News.